Hi everybody, now I want to talk about private investigators. It's something I've used in the past. It's not cheap, but it's worth the money. Using a private investigator is going to cost you about as much as using an attorney. You're not going to really get by with spending less than $1,000 usually. It just depends on your investigator and the nature of it. So having an investigator tail someone is what's expensive. That's usually around $70 to $100 an hour, and they tail and they video document what's going on. They can do background checks and criminal history checks. So there's a lot of websites out there that you can use yourself, but the thing is you can't just go to, so a good one is instantcheckmate.com. Instant Checkmate is phenomenal. It's not cheap, it's not the cheapest one out there, but the sheer the sheer volume of just stuff that they can uncover is amazing. However, just because you did the instant checkmate doesn't mean that it can be used in court, because again, in court, evidence that you bring is almost always only admissible when it comes from a third party, right? So the thing about this, usually like whenever you see murder trials, you don't see the suspect come and bringing his own evidence, you know? Like you say, well, I have these text messages here. You know, they always have to subpoena, witnesses. They have to look at police reports. They have to have the police officers testify in the court. There's this process, and it's because electronic documents can be faked. So, for it to have any credibility, it has to come from somebody that isn't you. So, evidence that you collect yourself, good that you have it because you know the facts. You won't really be able to use it in a lot of situations unless some very specific criteria are met, and that's really a conversation to have with your attorney. So don't take this as legal advice. Check with your attorney, but I can tell you right now, if you just go and do a background check yourself, chances are the court's not really going to consider it. And if you take a screenshot of your text messages yourself, that can easily be argued as hearsay or being faked or being unreliable. Same thing with emails. Most especially your word against theirs, testimony against in-person conversations. So this is where the PI comes in handy, because now it's not coming from you, it's coming from a third party. And they say, okay, yes, this person really was having an affair. I followed them to the hotel. They went into the hotel room and they did blank, 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 with the criminal history check, or with things that are like substance abuse, again, having the private investigator can say, so-and-so went to the bar, I walked in and I observed them having 5 shots of alcohol, and then proceeding to get back into the car and driving with the baby seat after consuming arguably too much alcohol. So this event really did happen, and they're willing to testify under penalty of perjury that it did indeed happen, right? So they have no vested interest or conflict of interest in testifying one way or another, because if they go and if they don't find anything, they're just as easy, they can just as easily say that they can get on the stand and be like, I was hired to look into possible drunk driving. No drunk driving was found, but we did find an affair, so there's that. So it can go both ways. A private investigator can clarify the existence of specific situations or the absence of specific situations. They can provide the background checks, and this is the main reason why you can't do your own background check, not just because it's faked, but because the background check information still has to be verified to be the correct person, So your ex is named Bob Jones, right? But how many 30-year-old Bob Jones are there in Houston, Texas? Probably a lot, right? So just because you do a background check on somebody named Bob Jones doesn't mean that it's the right Bob Jones. And furthermore, the more information you pull up from all the various sources, it still has to be re-verified and recertified. So if you go to Instant Checkmate, they may have anywhere from 5 to 25 sources of data, and all of those have to be confirmed to be 100% correct, certified and signed off by a licensed professional. So again, having a private investigator is really the way to go. Unfortunately, if you're just now coming to this channel, chances are you've probably been thinking that your evidence was sufficient when it wasn't. I thought in the beginning, when I discovered that my wife was cheating and told me she was cheating, I was under the impression that that was all I needed. She admits it. Nope. This is before I realized what I was really up against. So this is back whenever I was still sort of getting woke, I guess. But I still didn't, I had not been aware of the true depth of my situation at the time. No, that knowledge acutely came later. So in any case, I'm thinking that's probably about all I've got on the use of private investigators. It's like I said before, if you're considering taking your narcissist to court for anything, use a private investigator. You need to come up with your own dream team of an attorney and a PI. So you go to the attorney and you tell the attorney, my narcissist is doing A, B, and C, and I want to be able to file an enforcement action against them. What all evidences do I need to collect, and what all private investigators do you work with, and can you recommend? And so you get the attorney to identify what it is you need, and then you get the PI to acquire it, and then you can file your lawsuit, and you've got almost a guaranteed win in court if you do that. And I say almost guaranteed because there's always the right to a fair trial, and let's face it, they're good liars, so they can always probably find a way to lie through your testimony. But it's really hard to lie around a private investigator's testimony to something. There's really just no lying around it. And I think what you'll find is, especially if you go through level 1 discovery, which if you're not familiar with that, you file a lawsuit against your ex in court. They have a chance to file a response. So a motion's filed against your ex gets a chance to file a response. In the response, they can request discovery, or they don't have to. But if you go to your first hearing, they have the right to say, you know what, like, given all the information that's come to light now, I'd like to be able to reset the hearing, and let's go through level 1 discovery and see the evidences against me. So your narcissist can do that. If they don't file a response and they go to court, they can very well go up in front of the judge and they say, since we're here and we're talking about this, I can see now, the situation is different than I expected. Can we do discovery and reset? And that's usually a fair request. Not always, but it can certainly happen. It happened to me during my divorce proceedings. My initial divorce proceedings before I had the attorney I have now. You go to the hearing, you show up to the hearing, and it gets kicked down the road in favor of discovery. And during discovery is when all the paper trail stuff has to be dug up. All the boxes, all your file folders, and all the shit. It's miserable. You will spend so many evenings just making copies, printing emails, etc. It's very consumptuous, consuming, of a consuming nature. It's a waste of time. So there's that. However, once your narcissist does have the discovery, and you thud it down on the table with a well-organized set of evidence coming from a private investigator, some sworn affidavits, sworn testimonies, and an attorney. They're going to realize that they're sunk. They're just going to accept the loss. They're not even going to bother paying an attorney, and they're just going to skip out on court and get a default judgment most of the time. So that's understand. You don't want to reveal your strategy to the other team, right? You don't want to start talking big like, I'm going to take you to court and what you're doing is illegal. It's illegal because here in the decree, blah, 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 it says that you have to do this, 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 and this, and this, right? No football coach has ever won a football game by telling the other coach what they should or shouldn't do. So don't do it. It's pretty stupid. And you do it because in the heat of the moment, you want to you want to convince this person that they're wrong so that you don't have to go to court, right? But understand, this is one of the, it's actually pretty genius what narcissists will do. They'll actually come at you, anger, throwing a bunch of rage at you from a intentionally wrong position. And they're going to come at you intentionally being wrong and get you worked up, and to get you to tell them all the reasons why they're wrong, because they're smart like that. And then they're going to find out, okay, what's illegal? If this is illegal, then then they're going to tell me, right? So they're going to sit there and fight with you and get you worked up, and they're just going to get you so mad that you ultimately reveal your strategy to the other team. It's a very classic. It's a very classic arguing tactic. Get your opponent to reveal their strategy, and it's pretty genius. So don't do that shit. If you're planning on taking them to court, never mention it, except under the guidance of your attorney. If you're going for a contempt charge, there's another video on it. If you're going to go for a contempt charge, check out the video and get your ducks in a row on that. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, or share. I always love to hear from people. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you on the next video.